Hello and welcome to our webinar, Get the Most Out of Your Election. My name is Kyle Brandt, Marketing Coordinator at Survey and Ballot Systems, and I'm joined today by our Marketing Manager, Tony Hoff. Hi Tony, thanks for joining us.
Hey everybody, and thanks Kyle for having me.
So before we get started, I just want to make sure everyone can see our screen and hear me properly. So to start out, we'll begin with a few questions, just so we can get a feel for our audience in the elections you run. So with that, our first question that you can answer in either the chat field or the question box is, how often does your organization run elections? We'll give a few seconds for that one. Feel free to answer any of these as you have time. Next question is, how are nominations currently handled within your organization? Whether that's people emailing them into you, mailing them, done online, if you need a petition, anything along those lines. Okay. And then our final question is, what are one or two ways that you currently promote your elections? All right, great. Thank you to those of you who responded. So since 1990, SBS has been helping member organizations customize secure elections and voting events that encourage member participation and promote transparency in governance processes. When it comes to elections, we've seen it all and are here to answer any questions you might have. If you do have anything you'd like to ask during the course of this webinar, feel free to type right into that same chat or question box, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end. Today we're going to discuss some tactics that you can use in your election to ensure you're getting the most value. It's one thing to simply run an election, but with the time and resources the process requires, it would be foolish not to take the steps necessary to make the voting event a resounding success. What does getting the most out of an election really mean? That depends on what your organization is looking for, so going into the process with concrete goals is very helpful. But what we hear from most organizations we work with is that some of the primary goals are to improve voter turnout, simplify the nomination and voting process for all parties, and also learn more about their members. One of the first metrics of success of an organization will look to regarding their election is voting turnout. It's easy to understand, easy to calculate, and a quick way to compare elections year to year. This is absolutely something your organization should be looking at, especially since there are no downsides to ensuring as many members as possible are voting fairly and conveniently. What is more difficult to determine, though, is how to improve turnout. This is one area where the answer will almost always be the dreaded, "it depends." What are the methods you currently use for member voting? Are there any demographic segments that aren't casting as many ballots? Do you have email addresses for all your members? These questions could give you some insight for strategies moving forward. If your organization is sticking to the same voting methods it's used for years and also seeing low voter turnout, the solution is likely to add in some new ways to vote. If you're only allowing votes on-site at an annual meeting, maybe look to add a mailed ballot. This convenience can make all the difference for members who want to vote but just aren't able to take the time to travel to the meeting. If you're only mailing ballots but are seeing an underrepresentation of your younger members who aren't voting as much as you'd like, look into bringing an online element into the election. This would add the ability to vote right from a computer or mobile device in only a few seconds, which can help encourage voting among busy younger members. Including additional services with the election can help bring participation over the top. Options like single sign-on and one-click auto login embedded links within emails make voting quicker and easier, while tools like social media promotion enable members and candidates to spread the word about the election to their friends and fellow members. Your organization should promote elections with as much or more effort than it would any other event or marketing promotion. If members aren't aware of the election, who is running, or how they can vote, participation numbers can suffer. Build a solid strategy to promote the election, including a promotions calendar, Be sure to send voting reminders in many formats like postcards or emails, and use your internal communications department to spread this news as much as possible. Another angle to consider when seeking higher engagement with elections is who's running. While you can't usually have much say in who exactly is running for open positions, what is important is that you have candidates actually running. Consistently uncontested elections can have a variety of negative consequences, and one of the most glaring is that members won't vote. Seeing the same name up for the same position year after year with no competition won't drive anyone to action. After all, why take the time to cast a ballot if the outcome is going to be the same regardless of their participation? Show your members that voting matters by putting forth every effort to hold contested elections whenever possible. So now that we've talked a little about improving turnout in the voting process, I'll pass things over to Tony to discuss the importance of also improving the nominations process.
All right, thanks, Kyle. So, folks, sometimes an overlooked area of the election that can bring a great deal of value to your members, your candidates, and even your election administrators is the nomination process. A robust nomination platform that enables everyone access easily and securely can make a huge difference for your organization. So, for example, I'm often asked, what does a good nomination process look like? Well, honestly, it starts with the right candidates, as Kyle alluded to. Now, for your board of director positions, you don't just want anyone to fill that role. You want future board members who will actively push your organization forward. Now, according to research by the Fundraising Authority, the ideal characteristics of a strong board candidate are members who are smart, members who are active, and well-connected. So you want problem solvers on your board of directors. So look for potential candidates that are experienced in the field and that have shown their abilities on other boards or in similar situations. Active membership is vital because a board can't be successful without a concerted effort from its members. If a member is already active in your organization before joining the board, it's a safe bet that they will be engaged and highly motivated to attend meetings and events as a board member. A well-connected board member can also be a great asset in getting other members more involved in, say, voting in your election, or even potentially running for open board seats or other volunteer committee positions that you have down the road. Now, a key in getting the right nominations process is to make everything easy and convenient. Members really want to nominate themselves or another member, but if they have to jump through hoops to complete the nomination, honestly, many simply will not follow through. Now, utilizing an online tool for nominations and online petitions is a smart way to make the process faster and easier for everyone involved. The online aspect will make your members' lives easier, whether they're filling out their own application or signing a petition for a fellow member. Now, thinking about your election administrators, or in this case, your nomination administrators, you can save them hours upon hours of time by standardizing and simplifying the submission process. So with customized platforms like, Kyle, for example, direct nominations, sorry, that's a bit of a shameless plug there, folks, but in all honesty, Direct Nom is a robust online nomination tool that we designed to build all kinds of nominations. Tools like this can easily handle multiple offices all at one time if needed, which the benefit there is that it will keep formatting consistent with an online platform. It keeps everything consistent. It can take a complicated process, make it much easier and simplified. I'm sure some of you can relate to maybe this is how you're getting your nominations in now. Members are mailing them into you, some are emailing Word documents or PDFs. Perhaps they're dropping off a hard copy in person, et cetera, et cetera. So digital tools like direct nominations also are going to allow you to track where your candidates are at any point during the nomination process. This can be helpful to see where your nominees are and if they have any sections that are incomplete. And if so, you could even send them a nice friendly reminder email to remind them to complete the application by the deadline. We mentioned online petitions as well. Being able to monitor and track the number of petition signatures that have been collected to date will help take the guesswork out of knowing whether an election will or will not be contested. All right, so Kyle, we covered get out the vote tactics and modernize nominations. What else should member orgs do to get the most out of their election?
Yeah, so the next step is really learning about your members as much as possible. So when you're looking to get the absolute most out of your election, part of this should include learning valuable information that can help you in the future. The best way to do this is by gaining insight about your members. Does your organization have an up-to-date member email list? Email is still one of the most trusted and effective forms of marketing available. According to a study by Marketing Dive, more than 72% of people prefer email over other forms of communication. So having the right contact information gives you a very valuable tool in reaching your members in the most convenient ways for them. If you're mailing ballots for elections, consider including a line that enables members to update their email addresses. If your organization emails web ballots to the members, you should be looking into who viewed and interacted with your messages, as well as who isn't receiving them. Elections provide a unique snapshot of your membership that gives you detailed information beyond member email addresses or whether or not they voted. To get that information, you'll need to take a deep dive into the details of your election data with some advanced analytical reporting. Analyzing your election data more thoroughly can tell you which devices, which operating systems, and which browsers even your members are using to access the election and vote. Having this information is vital for making future election strategy plans, and it's also something that's really appreciated by your IT and management leaders. It can also tell you where your strongest voting locations are. So with a listing of top IP addresses, you'll be able to know where your organization's top geographic voting areas are, which can allow you to geo-target some get-out-the-vote efforts in the future. And then it'll also be able to provide you the information on what advanced voting features your members are utilizing. Whether that's offering single sign-on, QR codes, Outlook calendar reminders, or other advanced participation tactics, those are all great. What's even better is really understanding which of these features members are using, what features of these are prompting members to vote, and how they're voting. So Tony, now that we know some of the best practices and things to look for, can you expand a little bit on the strategies that will actually be used to accomplish these things?
Right, absolutely. So now we're going to get to the how for all of this, right? The first key to ensure you're getting everything you possibly can out of the election is by working with an expert. Now, since election processes are so unique for every organization, your election partner should really function in the role of a consultant. They should always be on the lookout for what's new and making recommendations based on your membership and election goals, demographics, etc. One of the fastest ways to invigorate your voting event is by adding additional voting methods or new features to the election. There are all sorts of options for this that SBS can help with. Some of these that Kyle mentioned earlier, but for example, participation reminders. An example of that would be direct mail postcards as a reminder, or maybe it's a letter, or timely reminder emails for your more digital and on-the-go members. Each one of these reminders can be sent to all the members who received a ballot but have yet to vote. Now, Kyle mentioned earlier too the embedded auto login links, and these are critical as well to help improve efficiencies in the election process because members can access their ballot in as little as one click. Also offering a single sign-on, which provides members access to their ballot via the members-only section of your website, is a great way to add convenience to the voting process. All of these that I just mentioned also eliminate the excuses a member could have for not voting and can give you a noticeable improvement for election participation. When you're looking at an election service provider and what they can do for you, be sure you're getting top-level security in addition to exciting features that they may offer. Now, there are all kinds of buzzwords that can make researching this aspect seem confusing and overwhelming. So what we recommend is choosing a vendor that can not only say they have strong security, but they have the documentation to back it up. So this type of documentation is something that you can trust if your vendor is SOC 2 compliant. For those of you who aren't familiar, SOC 2 was developed by the American Institute for Certified Public Accountants, or also better known as AICPA. And it was designed to provide standardized practices for service organizations like election providers. So it's a technical audit here that ensures strict policies and procedures are in place for security integrity, and confidentiality of your voting data. Now, this level of compliance is something you should look for with any vendor, but especially one that has your member and your voter data, as it provides assurances that all your voting information is in good hands, it's kept secret and confidential, all while giving you the convenience and protections of that third-party administered election. All right, Kyle, that's all I had. I'll turn things back over to you.
Thanks, Tony. So hopefully this helped lay the groundwork for your strategies moving forward in constantly growing and improving your election process. With the right tools and the right partner, you can hold a voting event that will represent your members fairly and give them easy access to their voice being heard, reduce stress on your staff, and allow you to learn more about your members and what works for them. So a little bit about our approach. At Survey and Ballot Systems, we work with some of the world's top member-based organizations to plan and manage their election needs. Integrity is a core value of how we conduct business and manage elections, while offering clients a variety of products and services that align with their needs. From self-administered online elections to full-service elections, the end result is a high-end voting event. Whether you require balloting to be done through the mail, online, on-site, by telephone, or any hybrid of these voting options, we promise a shared commitment to a successful election. So with that, what we'll do now is we'll open the floor up to any questions that you might have. I know a few came in during the process of this presentation, but if you have anything else you'd still like to ask, go ahead and type that in the chat or question fields now, and we'll get to what we can. All right, and the first question that we're seeing roll in here is, you mentioned electronic petitions. How do those work?
I'll tackle that one, Kyle. So it goes back to my favorite product I mentioned earlier, direct nominations. So what direct nominations does is it creates candidate-specific online petition forms that the candidate themselves can share electronically, so by email or social media. It can be posted on your organization's website if you have an Election Central page where all the candidates' information is posted. Essentially, what it does is it takes that paper information that you're looking to collect and digitizes it. I've even had a board member recently say to me that they're planning to bookmark their petition page on their iPad and go door to door to collect signatures, as they require their signatures to be of members in their geographic location. So as a member who's going to be signing the petition, what they're doing is they're entering their name, their member number, email address, etc. And then they can digitally sign that form if it's on a smartphone or a tablet with their finger, or from a PC with a mouse from their computer. The nice thing about the digital tracking of petitions is that both the candidate and your election administrators, you're able to track those signatures in real time. So a lot of my clients will say to me that we require, say, 20 signatures, but they always tell their candidates, get 30, get 40, because some members, people signing it, might not be eligible to sign that petition anymore. And being able to track it in real time allows them to communicate with their candidates that, hey, you may need to get a few more signatures to ensure that you make your way onto the ballot.
Thanks, Tony. Next question that we're seeing is, does SBS administer chapter elections? Tony, do you want to handle that one too? I know you've worked with those in the past.
Sure. Short answer, yes. Absolutely. Now, depending on your chapter elections, they could be run one of most likely two different ways. There are some organizations where the chapters will run their elections independently. And if that's the case, we have a system called My Direct Vote, which is geared for smaller organization elections. So when I say smaller, it's 5,000 eligible voters or less. If you have your elections, maybe you're part of a larger national association, you have a lot of chapters and subgroups. We do work with a number of organizations like that who will bring all of their elections under one roof, under a product called Direct Vote Central. And long story short, on Direct Vote Central, what that does is that allows your chapter members to see all the ballots that they're eligible to vote in at one time under one spot. So it creates that a familiarity and convenience factor of having everything all under one roof.
Thanks, Tony. So we got a couple questions that are kind of along the same lines, so I'll see if I can kind of knock them both out here. The one question is, do you do other surveys and questionnaires besides voting? Absolutely, we do. We'll handle any sort of survey and build that to whatever specifications you'll need. We'll do membership surveys or anything along those lines of what you're looking for. So that would definitely be a question to speak more in detail about specifics. But then another question that's kind of along those same lines of other things that we can handle. Somebody said, my association has scholarship applications due when we solicit board of director candidates. Could the nomination application support both of these things? And yeah, absolutely. So what that would probably look like is utilizing direct nominations like Tony's mentioned. But you'd probably have to use them within separate applications because you're realistically going to be asking for completely different information between a scholarship for college students and people applying to be candidates for your board of directors. But the platform itself can certainly be used for that, essentially be functioning the same way, just with slightly different questions. So yes, that's definitely something that is possible. Yeah, so this is actually a really good question. Do you see customers starting with mail-in voting, or do most go all in with mail-in, online, etc. once the decision is made to change their voting options for members? Tony, do you want to touch on that one?
Yeah, that is a good question, and they've all been good questions. So I think to summarize that, most folks they're usually transitioning from a certain voting type to another, right? And your membership is going to play a vital role in determining how far you can go or how much change they'll endure in 1 year. So what I always recommend folks is if you're take this for a scenario, you're voting all on site at an annual meeting. Maybe there's not even a paper ballot. Folks are voting by voice or raise of hand. Completely changing it to offer online and telephone voting and things like that, in that big of a shift, it may not be the best fit unless your members are used to that type of change. What most folks will do is we work on building out a transition plan. So in year 1, we mail paper ballots, for example. Year 2, we add online. Year 3, we add telephone voting or things like that. And you can speed that up or scale that down a number of different ways. But I think in general, I don't like to give answers. It all kind of depends. But in a sense, it does a little bit on your members and what they're accustomed to. I will say that it is rare to go the other way. So for example, most folks who are doing a mail-in ballot won't just cut off the mail completely and then offer an electronic option. There's usually a phasing out or a transition period of paper based on analytics like we talked about earlier and figuring out what's that sweet spot.
Thanks, Tony. And it looks like unless we have anything else, there's just one last question that we'll get to, and that is, how do you track calendar reminders and embedded link usage?
I'll take that one too. So Kyle had mentioned this just a little bit earlier, that we can dive down into even like types of browsers that people are using and things like that. But regarding the specific calendar reminders and embedded links, is we can track those through email click rate reports. So you can see the number of times members are clicking on those specific links within each individual email. The analytics, like I was just mentioning, can also tell you how people are logging into the site, whether it's a QR code, that single sign-on connection that we mentioned, and again, using a mobile device versus a desktop, which will help you determine what are the best methods and options that you should pursue in future years.
Thanks, Tony. And it looks like all the questions that we've had roll in for today. If you have anything else that you'd like to ask or discuss, please don't hesitate to contact us directly. We can handle any of those and give you more specific answers about what your organization might need. So we look forward to hearing from you. And with that, thank you for attending.